Hey guys, welcome to the latest episode of All Things Locks, where we discuss everything related to leadership, operations, culture, and strategies for healthcare. Now, today is going to be a really phenomenal episode. Nowadays, we're all trying to figure out in healthcare how to overcome disinformation, misinformation, and then how to grow your brand and elevate your company while not spending thousands and thousands of dollars on marketing. Well, today is going to be the show for you because we're discussing everything related to hosting your own podcast and why this is not just going to be an exciting new endeavor for you, but this is going to help you reach more people. We're talking patients, other practitioners, and this is what's going to really help elevate your message and get you in front of the people that you want to be seen by.
So, Tyus, just to crack on in here, you've worked with all types of different podcasts. You actually helped us in developing ours. I wanted to ask you, if someone is a business owner and they're looking to, get into the space of podcasting, what are some of the reasons why a business owner, a clinic should actually do that and take serious consideration in developing their own podcast?
Podcasts used to be a place for the wild, wild west of media. It was unknown and scary, and it's really come into the mainstream, which is wonderful. But most people are using podcasts really because they're an easy way of taking one piece of media and turning it into a bunch of different formats. So in a single day, it's possible to get a week's worth of content done. And as most people know, if you are not making a presence on social media, you're kind of nowhere. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I think a lot of people are transitioning into using that as a primary tool. And they think of the podcast as one piece of media, but it ends up being a lot of things, from blog posts to shorts to audio to video, all those things in between.
It also kind of seems like there's and correct me if I'm wrong, but when people got into social media when it first came out, that people actually struggled in kind of using it for business purposes or for sales or for brand awareness. And it kind of took a minute to get that ball rolling. And there's a certain mindset that I think people need to have when they're doing that with social media. Is there a way with a podcast, kind of same thing, where someone might have the mindset of I don't know if that's for me. I don't know if that'll work. I don't know if there's a ceiling to this or there's a floor to this.
I'm not sure I understand the question. So are you asking,
is
there a ceiling or floor, or is there a better mindset?
So initially I was actually pretty resistant in doing a podcast. And I think there's a lot of folks that you look at them like, man, if you started a podcast or if you develop something like this, it would be such a great asset for your business. But they don't believe I don't know if that's for me. I don't know if this makes sense.
I think it's easier to think of it as a piece of hygiene or business practice. And when I say practice, I mean quite literally practice or a behavior that you're putting in place. The number one mistake people make in podcasting is not starting one. The second biggest mistake they make is not continuing. But that's the same as if you're
trying to lose weight or
everything.
Yeah.
Starting a business, show up. And do the job. And so often, over 20 years ago, I started my first podcast. And the biggest mistake I made with that podcast is I turned it off. I stopped recording on that particular show. But had I continued to go, it would have been one of the longest running shows around. And so I think getting your head around the fact that this is just going to become a discipline, working out in the morning, taking your vitamins or whatever, the meal plan you might be on. It's at that level. It's not the big move that has the big effect. It's the little moves done consistently over time that's going to influence everything. But we all know this. This is old school philosophy that is tried and true.
What would you say, though, is, so Antonio, you're talking about mindset. Just what are some of the biggest misconceptions that people in general, especially business owners, have when it comes to podcasting as it relates to not starting one?
I think a lot of people think it's going to be easier than it is. Or they confound timelines. They just go, if I do this, I'll have 1 million subscribers or $1 million in
2 weeks.
Yeah. Doesn't work that way. Never has. And I think those are the two biggest. I came from the world of magic. There's this really ridiculous scene inside of a movie, the 40-Year-Old Virgin, where he reaches behind somebody's ear and pulls out a rubber ear. And they're like, you walk around with a rubber ear? And they're making fun of him for being kind of a silly magician. But the best secret in magic is that it takes tremendous preparation and care, and you are carrying around extra stuff, and it's more work than you ever think it would ever be. And that's why it fools people. But that's the secret to everything. Like, if you want to be a good doctor, the secret is like, you've got to put in more work than people would think you'd be willing to put in. If you want to be good at anything, that's what it takes.
So that's something that I've heard from some people. A, I don't have the time. And then B, even having people on our show, the biggest thing we get, the biggest reaction is, wow, that place looks professional as hell. I'm shooting at my house and I look like shit. Right? So how many people maybe, I don't say a percentage, but how many people just don't start because they either factor in, well, I don't have time, like I'm a doctor and I'm working all week, and then I don't have a studio, so I'm not going to look so professional. So how much of that actually holds people back from just getting out there and starting it?
I think it holds a lot of people back. I don't think, I'm not a big fan of excuses. So when it comes to, there's information out there. It's hard to say that you don't have the information at your hands nowadays. Yeah. It used to be the case, right? But nowadays, if you want to have something look good, it doesn't actually take that much time to figure that out. Here's the secret to looking good on video. Good lights and good lenses, the camera doesn't matter that much. That's it. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter how well you look, because most people are digesting this in audio. Like 1,000 to 1 are digesting long form content in audio over video. So the mic matters more than the camera. There was other parts to that question.
Time? Yeah, I don't have the time to do this. I'm too busy in the clinic or treating patients all week.
Yeah. So if you intend on having a marketing department or a personal brand, you've got to consider how you're going to invest that time. Totally valid that you might not have enough time. But then you need to consider, how are we going to get our message out there? And does that mean we're going to be hiring a marketing team that is going to be recording this for me? And maybe that is the case. For most people, if they don't have the time to record a podcast, they certainly don't have the time to create a new post for their Instagram every single day. They certainly don't have enough time to write a blog post. They certainly don't have enough time to write email newsletters. And I would argue that, given technology and now the fact that we have LLMs that can transcribe a podcast and use that for other forms, doing a 1-hour recorded episode, you can create all of the rest of your week's content in 1 hour. To say that you don't have time to do that 1 hour means that you're going to spend that hour doing it a bunch of times over in other ways. So it's similar to saying, I don't have time to take care of my body. Well, you're going to pay. Like, mm-hmm. It's just going to come somewhere else.
So kind of leaning on that, continuously, where if someone starts a podcast and they're trying to think of, like, all right, so it's going to take a little bit of work, focus on a microphone, the camera doesn't matter. It's definitely lens, it's definitely lighting. And they decide to actually, do that and develop their own podcast. I'm curious, from your point of view, how important is it to have like a cause in place?
To have a cause in place, like a mission or a brand, or
brand.
Something that you.
Yeah.
I don't think much matters more than that in life. I think if you go to Viktor Frankl and you read like Man's Search for Meaning, like, there's not a whole lot that matters more than having a purpose.
Because I think I'll just speak for myself, like, especially in doing like this podcast, I think, because we celebrated our 1 year just a couple weeks ago, something like that. And the amount of time of getting guests in and like figuring out what we're going to talk about and like researching guests, and it's a lot. And so what's in front of Dan and our minds a lot is that, there's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of healthcare professionals that are not getting like tactical, practical advice that's specific to them. And that's like a driving force to continue. So we don't be another statistic where we just started or we don't start it at all. And if we do start it, we're consistent with it. So the amount of like having a business cause for doing it, because there is a lot of benefits for a business in starting a podcast.
Yeah. The only reason that I got into the business of podcasting, I'm in a situation where it wasn't necessarily a financial limitation for me. It was one where I wanted more purpose in my life, and bringing in people that have something to say and want it so badly that they're willing to invest in getting that message out there. I'm stealing a little bit of that purpose away from them. So I think purpose is everything.
Just suctioning that life force.
Take a little bit at a time. That's why I got in. That's why I do it. I don't care about the money particularly. I don't care about. And the truth be told, when it comes to being like honest on these things, being authentic. Being authentic is by far the most important factor with it. People can read right through something that seems overplanned. I was talking about having nice video and stuff. There's actually a mistake you can make where you can have the video too nice. And if it's too good, people will go,
they're skeptical. Like a guard comes up.
They just go, this is all getting read off of a prompter. It's produced by a big company. I just don't buy it. So authenticity really matters. During COVID, I was producing these videos, and we found that specifically for Facebook, we needed to shoot it on iPhones, even though we had the budget to shoot it on Red cameras. Because people that saw it on a Red camera, they would immediately go, something's wrong with this. We had the budget, but we had to end up pulling out a phone so that it was relatable. And I think that relatability really matters. And one thing, speaking to your guys' world of like the healthcare and business, is that you guys get into kind of these walled gardens where you speak a certain language, that whether it's a business language or a healthcare language, and the rest of the world doesn't relate to what you're saying. And so becoming relatable, becoming authentic really, really is important.
So, I mean, and you bring up a fair point there, which is, and we didn't mention it, but when people maybe they're not even gun shy to get on camera, or, maybe they are, but then it's just, how do I communicate in a way that makes sense, right? So it's, I feel, and you just lay that out really well, which is who are you really speaking to? And in the healthcare space, the goal should be, how do I speak to my audience, which is generally speaking are patients, and then how do I actually connect with them in a way that it makes sense versus, that's where the struggle a lot for a lot of doctors and medical practitioners is just they get on there and they're okay speaking, but then it's so far above the person's head of who's listening that within a minute, I don't even know what the hell you're saying. So I think the question I would have for you is, what are some ways that you would guide maybe somebody in medicine who tends to overcomplicate things, some ways you can guide them on how to get the message out where it's very easy to digest for the person who's listening or watching?
Yeah. I mean, I hate to say it, but think that you're speaking to a child more than anything else. Like,
I was just going to say that, yeah.
Harry Potter rocks as a book because everybody could read it. If you come in and you're just like, oh, you're diaphoretic, like, nobody knows what you're saying. Yeah. You got to say sweating. Nobody knows what you're saying. So you use real language. Talk to them as a person. We just partnered with UNLV School of Medicine. They're coming in and they're recording shows here.
University of Nevada, Las Vegas, right?
Yes.
Yeah, awesome.
They're recording using our studio specifically because they see a real need in finding a way of communicating properly with the public. And they're just like, we're failing as an industry. People don't know what to expect. And so they're specifically shooting content about, here's what to expect. You're going to go into surgery. Hey, here's what's going to happen in that process. And they can send this content out so they don't have to record it or say it over and over and over again to every single patient. They can say it the right way. They can test to make sure that it's understandable.
It's compliant and all that, yeah.
And just get it done. And then you have a wonderful thing where you've now scaled, right? Mm-hmm. You don't have to say the same thing over and over and over again. And you're helping them at home. So the patient, okay, this is coming up. Well, here's this episode. Here's this content. It's already made. So it saves you time with your staff. It saves you marketing, all that stuff. It's just a win across the board.
Do you feel like more people should be doing it? Like more business owners should be doing it? Or are there some where you would think that this is probably not a good route for a person?
I don't like telling anybody what to do.
You tell us all the time, man. Every time we walk in here, you're like, you know, guys.
You should probably bring that mic closer.
Yeah.
So I don't like telling people what to do.
Or maybe another way is like, if there's someone that you're like, they're going to really have an uphill battle in doing it because these things are in place for them.
I think every business, I think probably every individual is missing a tremendous opportunity if they're not leveraging the media landscape that we're in currently. And so that's not to say you need to start a podcast, mm-hmm. but to get very personal, my dad is toward the end of his life, and I've interviewed him specifically so that I can check in and see those stories in the future, right? Mm-hmm. And I can actually simulate his voice now if I want to. I'll be able to have a conversation with him for the rest of my life if I want to. Right? There's some really, really cool advancements that are taking place. And there's a lot of people that are like, I'm shut in from all that. And I get it. I don't look at social media for exactly the reason that a lot of people don't want to pick up a mic or say anything. But if you think your thoughts are valuable in any capacity, then you probably should be sharing them because the solution to bad speech is more speech. And So anyway, so I think there's a tremendous opportunity right now. I don't really care what avenue that is through. I think podcast is probably one of the best because long form is significantly advantageous over short form content.
What do you, just for somebody who doesn't understand what that is, long form versus short form?
Yeah, quite literally, the longer you record, the more context we understand as far as what you're saying. We understand where it's coming from. Short form outperforms long form content. So if you are creating content and you create something that is 5 seconds long, it's going to outperform in views something that's 20 or 30 seconds long. And that's going to outperform an hour-long piece of content. That's just how it's always going to be. An 8-minute video will beat a 1-hour podcast. But if you're talking about creating a relationship with a client, the hour will always win. And it's why Joe Rogan, who currently is the #1 podcaster in the world, people believe they know him, and they probably do because he spends
so much of him.
Yeah, 9 hours a week is in their ear. They have a 9-hour a week relation. I don't have a 9-hour a week relationship with my dad, and I live with him right now. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned one thing. It was like, the solution to bad speech is more speech. And, especially working with doctors where you have, there's a ton of different opinions on, let's just say one thing, whether it's COVID, whether it's, vaccines, whether it's Tylenol, whether it's whatever. If there's a doctor that is like specializing in a particular thing and they want to have a podcast and start talking about like, hey, I come from this place of education. This is me. This is my perspective. This is the literature that backs me up and my interpretation of this literature. And they want to start a podcast. I feel like, generally speaking, when you're in a space like that some people might have a little bit of reservations of doing it because maybe like cancel culture, or maybe or maybe they misspeak on one thing or whatever. What kind of guidance would you give someone on that? I know that there's like the power of saying allegedly when people are talking about scandals and all that, but what would you say to those folks that like, hey man, your voice needs to be heard. Maybe you just need to pre-frame some things in a way so things are off your back.
Yeah. So we'll have people that come in and they want everything to be perfect. And
really?
What are you talking about?
What? Never heard of them.
And they'll have a glass of water out in front of them or something, and it'll spill, and they'll be like, "Oh, can we cut that out?" And my first piece of advice is, do not cut that out.
Yeah.
That's the moment that proves that this is real, right? You actually want to keep. If you make a mistake, like I get the urge to be flawless, and I get the urge to like protect your reputation, but the people that I trust are the ones that say, "Hey, I believed this for a really long time, and I changed my mind." Because new evidence came out and showed that to me. And so I trust a lot of people that are wrong persistently, but they're open about being wrong and they'll identify when they're wrong. What I don't trust is somebody that says this is definitively the only way it can ever be because it's only a matter of time before innovation leaves them in the dust. Like that's gonna happen. And it's the same thing, like, the difference between a hero and a villain from a moral standpoint is that a hero questions the ethics of everything they're doing, while a villain never does. A villain just goes, I'm right. I'm Thanos. This is the way it's going to be, right? While the hero is like, is this the right move? Is that like questioning yourself and being wrong is okay? And so with that being said, I don't know the answer to the best way to frame all of that stuff. What I do know is that it's okay to be vulnerable on camera. And if you want to build a relationship and you want to build trust with your audience, the way to do that is to say, hey, I don't have all the literature on this, but this is what I do have in front of me, and this is what I think is right now. If things change, I'm going to update this, and I'll let you know. That's the way you build trust. That's the way you establish it, is by being human, not by being perfect.
I will say there are plenty of medical professionals who don't want to say those words, I don't know, right? But that's actually to your point about builds trust, is when somebody does say that to a patient, and it's not just, I don't know, and they give up, versus, I don't know, but I'm gonna research and find the answer, or I'm gonna look into it and see what actually makes the most sense. That to your point, like I don't know what kind of frame it would do. It's just, all right, how to be vulnerable and honest, but still exhibit some level of authority, so to speak, of this is what I'm gonna do to actually find you an answer. And I know even when I was in practicing, that's one of the things people ask me all the time. Like, I don't really know the answer, but I'm gonna do everything I can to actually find it, and here's what we're going to do in the meantime to still get you the result.
Yeah.
Right, and that's kind of what I heard from you right there.
A medical professional is going to know a lot more, even if they don't know the answer. They might be able to say like, hey, here's the avenues that I would definitely dig down through. And like, we can probably research this together right now. And as the person that knows nothing, I wouldn't even know where to start, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to trust you a lot more. But man, if you make something up, if you lie to me, I'll never trust you again.
Yeah, and that's the mentality. A lot of people, I got to be perfect, so let me just bullshit you into thinking that I know the answer versus just, hey, I don't really know, but this is what we're going to do to find out.
Yeah, ego is the enemy.
Yeah.
Where do you think the world of podcasting is today? Like if you were to have like a State of the Union, and where do you think it's headed ultimately?
I think we are past infancy, but we're kind of in the teenage years, I think. So mainstream media, going back to authenticity, isn't trusted anymore. People don't trust people reading off teleprompters. I know.
Yeah,
I know.
The numbers are tanking. More and more viewership is going down.
They know that they're bought, and whether they're bought by a corporation or by a political party, it doesn't really matter. They just know that what is being said can't be trusted when they tune into the news, and every newscaster is saying the same thing off the same script. So that's why they're tanking. And that has opened up the door for alternative media, which I would definitely classify podcasts in. But podcasts are not in the infant stage where it's like, I've never heard of that. Mm-hmm. Everybody has heard of that. What hasn't happened is, fortunately, but it will come eventually, is we don't see a lot of regulations. We don't see a lot of rules in place. There's not a perfect format. There's a lot of flexibility in it. So it's still early stages, because as things progress, that will go away. Mm-hmm. That's just the nature of technology and processes, that like somebody's going to figure out, hey, this works really well. You know, going at the Joe Rogan thing, there's 1 million people trying to clone the Joe Rogan format because it works really well. But it's really not the only one that works really well as a format. And so there's still flexibility in there. It's a lot of dynamic range within it.
Yeah.
So that's where I think it is right now. Where I think it's going, I think it is going to be attracting a lot of dollars, really from the attention economy. We've come to a point in the economy where it's less about manufacturing and a lot more about like, how do I put the right thing in a person's hand? And to do that, they're seeking who has the attention. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of that is going to come from dynamic content. And what I mean by that, and this is bleeding edge. There's stuff called like dynamic ad insertion. So if I were to do an ad read to the camera and say like, this podcast is brought to you by Pfizer, which I probably just got you in trouble.
It's not, yeah, which we're not.
But if I do that ad read, you really can't change that in the future because it's baked into this episode. So people are doing dynamic ad reads where they're basically putting intentional breaks in and then being able to feed in advertising later on. Mm-hmm. I anticipate that in not a very long time from now, given what AI is doing, that we'll be able to change this water bottle on the table in real time to whatever drink wants to sponsor this show, and maybe even by region. So if I'm in California, it might be some wine, and if I'm in New York, it might be whatever they're wanting to push or whoever's spending the most money. So I think a lot of ad money is going to end up going to podcasts because people are consuming that more than they're consuming mainstream media. I mean, movies are dropping. Almost everything is dropping except for this media.
Even how movies are being written now is really dumbed down. I saw this bit where now TV producers are telling TV writers, or even Netflix or Hulu or whoever, is that the way that you write these shows or write these movies, you have to almost like spell out what is in the movie, because people now more than ever they're not sitting there just watching a movie, they're scrolling and they're trying to keep an ear open at the same time. And so they're almost simplifying a screenplay just so people can follow along with it and not be, oh, I'm confused, right? It's not like we're in a completely different world now because of that.
Yeah. Really, I also think one of the places the podcasts are going to be going toward is deeply interactive. I think is going to be more and more of a theme as things move forward. To bring some class into this, if you look at OnlyFans versus traditional porn, the reason they're paying money for,
I don't know what you're talking about. I've never,
but it's because they're being able to communicate with a person on camera, and we have some shows that are that do an incredible job with an audience. That I've seen some really clever things where if they've got an audience member that loves their show and is commenting all the time, they'll reach out and be like, hey, could you do me a favor? Could you help field all my answers for this show? So when this video goes live on YouTube, will you respond to every answer on my behalf? And so they're turning an audience member that's a fan into somebody that's literally part of the team, and they keep growing their team in that way. I see it changing everything.
So you're saying, I'm sorry, Carl, you're seeing that, you're saying you anticipate that happening more on like the back end, or would you say more shows maybe getting like Dave Ramsey, where it's actually people calling in and
I think we'll see some Dave Ramsey stuff. I mean, obviously that's the live stream, that all works really well. And I wouldn't say that's particularly innovative, but I definitely would see that. There's a show produced here in Vegas called Ice Cream Social, and the fans send in letters and create games that the hosts actually are playing during the show. Like, it wouldn't surprise me at all to see that kind of thing happen. Podcasts are mildly interactive in the sense that what the audience generally likes are the guests that the people want to bring in and talk to, or the problems that they have. Joe Rogan interacts in reverse, where he is the audience he's trying to ask the question that the audience would ask, right? For what it's worth, he also blocks out a lot of people and doesn't listen to a lot of terrible comments, because that's the balancing point of bringing in interactivity.
I got a follow-up question on that. So when someone is starting a podcast, you mentioned a little bit earlier that there's no perfect structure. There's some that are, rather long form. There's some that are a little bit shorter, and there's just so much variation to it. Whereas you look at mainstream media, whether it's Fox, CNN, NBC, whatever, is that there's a very tight format that they're all essentially running, whether people believe in them or not. And I'm wondering, I almost look at podcasts in a way like similar to music or into cinema, is that there's a lot of podcasts that actually influenced, Dan and I on like how we want to structure something. So if you're talking to a business owner or a doctor that's looking to create like a podcast, what kind of advice would you give them as far as like researching different podcasts or researching different things to kind of curate something that makes sense for you and what you're gunning for?
I hate to say this, but I wouldn't trust the research.
You wouldn't trust the research?
I wouldn't. So, for example, if you were to look at the research that's on the length of a podcast,
okay,
the answer is going to be the correct length for a podcast is 23 minutes long. That's what the research says. It's wrong. And the reason it's wrong is because that research is based off of the listening time. So people are turning off podcasts at 23 minutes. It doesn't actually mean that you should record a 23-minute podcast. It means that that's attention span, right? So it should be significantly longer. We definitely know that, but the data will tell you otherwise, and the data is wrong. And because we're still in infancy phases, or not, I shouldn't say, we're in our early teens of podcasting. I think the right move is to try a bunch of different formats and be really, really nimble. Probably the one thing you should not try is to not try. And I know that's simple, but a lot of people will just be like, it didn't work. It's like, okay, you did one format and you did 3 episodes. Like, what you should be doing is committing, like, I'm going to do 100 episodes no matter what. It doesn't matter what format. It doesn't matter what length. It doesn't matter if I've got a guest or I'm doing a talking head as a solo thing. It doesn't matter if I'm live streaming or if I'm doing it with a live audience. It doesn't matter. So that the goal should be, set something where you got to get the reps. If you expect yourself to be strong before doing the reps, you're going to lose every time. You won't have the strength.
How do you feel about, so there's like the research of like, the perfect podcast time and all that, but I mean more stylistically. Do you recommend someone being like, all right, just get out there, get in front of a camera and just talk and find your way along it? Or check out different podcasts, but hey, I really resonate with how, let's just say, Theo Von does this, or how Joe Rogan does that, or how this person does this. And I actually like, it's almost like a musician. I really like, Zach Wilde's pinch harmonic here and like, whatever, right? And then trying to create something that's a little bit different. So there's like 2 schools of thought here, because I definitely was leaning towards one or the other. But what do you recommend for people to do? Just go balls in on themselves, or check out some stuff?
I mean, wouldn't it be nice to say that, like, if you know who you are, then embrace that and just do that. But most people don't know who they are. So a couple of things you can do. You can ask your friends, what, serious. Like,
yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
What am I, if you were to classify me as a celebrity, which one would that be?
Howard Stern.
Perfect.
Okay, yeah, let's go with that.
And so like you could identify, like, I think I'm most like this person. A lot of times somebody that we admire is nothing like us. And so if I tried to do what a Theo Von does, I'm going to fail every time at that. But there are other people that you're like, man, that guy's dead on. He's a dead ringer. There's this story from an art college, and I don't have all the details on it, but I can tell you the story because I think it relates, where the student drew exactly like Van Gogh. And he's just like, everything I do is exactly like Van Gogh. None of it feels original. It's all derivative, right? And the teacher's like, well, we actually have a Van Gogh on display in this other gallery. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you access to that. And I want you to clone it. I want you to paint exactly what that Van Gogh looks like. So they do. He paints it. And he's like, so is it exact? He's like, no, it's a little different here. It's a little different here. And it's like, that's you. All the differences is what makes you a special and unique person. Now you just have to exaggerate those things that makes you unique. You might always have overlap between that other person.
Yeah.
But there is something unique. Another really, really good piece of advice on creating something that is uniquely yours is to create a Venn diagram. So if I was to create a podcast on business, right? There's a lot of podcasts on business. It's not going to be something that's clever and unique. If I were to create a podcast on business that's specifically going to talk about microphones, okay, now we're narrowed that down. If I talk about a business that's specifically related on microphones and it talks about the medical field, okay, now I'm niche. Now I'm super, super targeted. I'm going to find the people that care about that the most, and it's going to be easier to connect with them. And then I can expand that circle outward from there. When almost all the best started out, they're in a very, very tight position, and then they'll expand outward from that point after they've got traction.
So you just said some things there. I just kind of want to summarize because I thought it was really high level stuff, which was, getting started. We're obviously talking a lot about medical practitioners where a lot of them tend to be very analytical. Hence, we overthink and we plan and plan and plan and plan and plan and then never actually get started. So that concept of, while you're planning and preparing, somebody else just got started and is actually way ahead of you. So that's definitely one, is just getting the ball rolling, getting going. And you mentioned the word of attention, which is a huge one as well, because the loudest voice we know wins. And unfortunately in medicine, a lot of the loudest voices are not people even in medicine or healthcare. It's just people who, hey, I just didn't even graduate high school, didn't go to college, but I'm giving medical advice to my followers. So it's about putting yourself out there, to having the right attention to get the right information out there. But this aspect that you said of find your path, find what works for you, don't go so heavy into the research. There's an aspect too, though, of being, speaking the way you speak and being who you are, but then also knowing how to speak in a way that resonates with the audience. So I think the question I would have for you is how does somebody, if they say, I'm going to take the plunge and I got started, what do I have to do then to reach more people? What do I have to do to speak in a way that actually helps me connect better with my audience?
Okay. So to reach more people, the low-hanging fruit, and this is what everything says to do this, is to go on other people's podcasts. So you find everybody that would be competing against you in your genre or whatnot, you reach out to them. You'll be surprised how often they'll just have you on their show. But the second part of this is what almost nobody does. And what you should be doing is you should figure out what your message is before you get on that show. Everyone thinks as a guest, all I've got to do is respond to what they asked me. So there's no prep involved. But if you think about really, really good speakers, whether they're in business, whether they're in politics, whatever the case may be, they have a narrative and they get to that same story every single time.
Yeah.
So what they're doing is they're waiting for a question, figuring out how they can spin that question to say the story that they've pre-written. So if you want to be a great communicator and really resound with an audience, like, you've got to work that story. Like a stand-up comic gets on stage and they tell the joke and the joke sucks. And then they rework the joke and then they say it again until they're like, okay, I've got gold here. I'm going to say that all the time. If you listen to like Tony Robbins or something like that, he says the same thing over and over and over again. But man, it's nailed.
Yeah.
Like, he said that so many times, it's perfect. And so doing that is massive. Now there's a ton of other things as far as like growing an audience is concerned. There's all these little tactics. Like, so for example, let's say you went on somebody else's podcast, right? you could then take that episode and then run ads for that on their show. So you could go onto YouTube and cut up a short video, make that an ad, put it on their show, and now their audience who sees their show keeps seeing an ad that includes you in it. And when they click on it, it brings them over to your show. So like you can drag people over. Anyways, there's all kinds of like little tactics. A lot of them involve money. Not all of them do. You can go onto bulletin boards and Reddit threads and stuff and say and look for the questions that people are asking that people don't have great answers for. Record content based off of that question, giving the answer, and then take the episode and post it on that forum and be like, I actually just did a podcast related to that question.
What would you say is more important, the content or the delivery of the content?
I think the delivery of the content is the content. And I hope that's not a dodge, but
I mean a little bit, but
maybe a little
yeah, like I'm thinking, like just again that medical person who's maybe a little more buttoned up, maybe, and he's giving high level advice, and you're just like, dude, where's your personality at? Like,
yeah, I mean that's kind of like, is it the food or the ingredients?
Yeah.
Right. It's like, well, the food is made up of the ingredients, but like if you have crap ingredients, then the food's gonna suck, and so yeah. I think narrowing down that the ingredients is going to matter. So I would say the delivery is what ends up being the end product, and a lot of people aren't considering that.
Yeah. So being that this is kind of a bit of a newer space, you said like it's not in the infancy stage, but it's kind of moving along, but still relatively new to a lot of people. So we've worked with some companies where it's like time for them to get marketing, right? Let's start working with an agency. And sometimes there's a lot of snake oil out there. There's a lot of crap when it comes to quote unquote growing your brand, building leads. And I don't think that the podcast industry is really any different. But what are some tips and tricks that you would recommend people have if they are going to get some outside assistance in growing their podcast?
I would look for transparency.
What does that mean to you?
That means there's a lot of companies out there that will be like, oh, I can help your brand grow, and you can pay the money, and it does seem to help your brand grow, but they won't tell you how they're doing it. That's really scary.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of that too. Yeah,
but the ones that are good, even if they're using inauthentic means, like even if they're using bots and all kinds of stuff, they should tell you this is why I'm doing it. And for example, we offer marketing services for podcasts as part of one of the things we do. Mm-hmm. And some of that is authentic growth and some of it's inauthentic, right? Some of it is I can change the numbers on the results if I want to do that. And you might say, well, why would anybody want to do that? Well, maybe they need to establish credibility really early on and thinking that number is going to help them. Maybe. Most of the time it's related to like, hey, I've got to do a presentation for Discovery Channel, and the first thing they're going to ask is how many subscribers are on that channel. Well, I can crank up the number. Like I can literally just turn the knob and get you whatever you need, even if it doesn't matter. Like obviously we want to have authentic growth, but that's not the fast end solution. And so inauthentic growth is a way of growing, but if they're not willing to tell you how that's happening, then I wouldn't trust it at all, because they could just be hacking in and literally changing what you see on your site. They could be fixing a graph. Like, anyways, so what you should be looking for in my head is they should be willing to tell you like this is authentic, this is inauthentic, this is how I'm getting them across the board. This is literally how the strategy works.
So when that's happening, are you assuming that every agency has authentic and inauthentic? It's just a matter of, are you going to tell me?
So a ton of them will just say that
we're just going to help you grow.
We'll grow your followers. What does that mean? Like, are you? Because it's really, really easy to grow a brand online if it's marketed in India and Indonesia or whatever, and it will help your business in 0 ways. Because I can get 1 million people to just say like, doesn't help you at all. On the flip side, like we can grow it organically, and it might take a really long time, but you should know that like that's here we're doing this the way not to get the numbers. That's not what this is about. This is about getting conversion. Right? Very different strategies. They can work and play with each other oftentimes. And so...
Can I just... Yeah. So it sounds like you're saying you got to be dialed in on what the actual outcome is of the show, right? So like you said, like, all right, we got 20,000 impressions or 20,000 followers, but then our core concept is to actually get clients out of it, and we're not getting any clients. So does that 20,000 matter or not? You say in that case, no, it's irrelevant.
Yep. Yeah. So I can get you all the followers in the world. Who cares? I can get you all the listens in the world or all the comments in the world. Like, what's the goal?
Yeah.
Where are we going?
Yeah. Versus like we get 100 downloads, but we get 10 clients out of it every week. That was the win.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are looking, they get confused in the process. They've got this funnel, right? And then they're like, you know what? If I need everybody to download my ebook or whatever the case may be, or whatever it is. And like, great, you got 1 million downloads of your ebook. So what? Was that actually the goal, or was the goal to get somewhere else? Is the goal to spread your message? Is the goal, when people come in here into the studio, they are almost always starting off with like, I want to grow an audience. What they often miss is like, there's tremendous value in all kinds of other areas of doing this, whether it's organizing your thoughts or being a good communicator or archiving content or having incredible interactions with people. That you normally wouldn't be able to sit across the table from for an hour. There's all these other sub benefits, right? But if you don't know where you're going with that, like if you're recording this and you're wanting to turn it into a SOP, great, that's a win. But don't expect to get money out of that, because like that's not what you're trying to move toward. If you're trying to spread your message, then I care if the audiobook gets downloaded, but I don't care if it turns into money. But if I'm looking for money, it's a different process too.
I think who the hell was it? I think it was Alex Hormozy, and he gave the example of I think it was a registered dietitian. It was like registered dietitian for diabetics. So kind of that niche audience you were talking about. He's like, if you're getting 200 views on a video you're putting out and it's consistent, but you're comparing it to that person who's getting 10,000, but you have 200 people that are vested in actually working with you, that makes way more sense than the person who's getting 10,000 views, but nobody wants to work with you. And that's what it sounds like you're kind of describing there.
Yeah. I mean, there are marketing strategies that are in the multi-million-dollar range that I'm fully aware of, and they work super, super well. And believe it or not, they're actually cost effective at $2 million to promote a podcast or an online video. Charlie Kirk used to be spending about $2 million on marketing.
That's why we're not where we're at. We're not spending $2 million.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I wouldn't recommend it for everybody. And also, like, I'm pretty sure he was getting paid by political parties and stuff. So, like, his money's not necessarily his at that point.
So that is an interesting subject, though, of money spent on it, because a normal business owner always goes. A lot of them go right towards, well, what's the return on the investment, right? So if I'm going to spend this much money, what should I get it back on it? So maybe you can speak to that person. Of maybe it's not even a return on investment as it's dollars spent, but time spent. So,
I wish I had a better answer for that. That's a great question. Sure, you could do the investment thing. It's really hard to measure marketing dollars unless you've got some clever tracking involved. So, for example, I have done shows where we've created unique phone numbers per episode. So if you're interested, call this number, right? And we've run that over like 10 episodes, but each episode had a unique phone number so that we could not only track calls, we could track which one was the most effective one. But that's a lot more work to create all these and then the tracking technology and stuff like that. That can be done with QR codes or email addresses the same way, right? So there's ways where you could track the ROI, but the truth is, if you're doing anything that is attention related, it is really, really hard to quantify attention. It's not hard to quantify dollars at the end of the day, but it's hard to say, hey, based off of 500 episodes, which episode drew the traffic and then ended up getting a return. I don't have a good answer on how to do that. I think that if you were to compare this form of media to pretty much anything else around right now, for what you put out versus what you get back, I think it's probably the highest ROI. But what I'm saying, what you get back is not just in money, in cash coming in the door. I think there's a lot of other benefits if somebody's smart on how they're using it.
I want to ask you on that. You mentioned a little bit earlier about that podcasts are evolving, specifically like someone's podcast. Maybe they try 20 minutes, they try an hour, they go to 40, they adjust maybe their framework. What kind of brain trust do you recommend people have in having like surrounding themselves with people that can give them like good feedback on how to refine that? So just for me and Dan personally, like this was our first foray into this when we did it, and we had some really good people that were able to give us kind of pointers and different different perspectives. It's like, okay, we can maybe do this a little bit different, tighten this up. And what do you recommend for people to have like in their corner where it's just not random people, but the right people to help with their vision?
So I think there's two perspectives there. One is getting the basics down. How far should this be? And am I talking correctly to the mic? And is my content fine? Which is pretty easy, to be honest.
So like the technical things, is that what you mean?
Not just technical, just the basics, the foundational elements of doing something. If I go into a doctor's office and I tried to act like I was a doctor, they're going to spot me instantly because I do not know what I'm doing, right? Like it'll take
the glove and just smack it.
It'll be like 3 sentences before they're like, "Guy didn't go to medical school," right? Won't take long at all. So I think you need this foundation, right? At some level. And you could read books for that. You can watch YouTube videos for that. You could talk to people that know what they're doing. They're really not that hard to find. That core information is not hard to find if you're really choosing to look for it. What's incredibly hard to find is the current advancements that are working, and the reason they're really, really hard to find is because they're moving really fast. And so generally, if somebody's putting out a YouTube video saying, "Hey, this is working for marketing," it isn't by the time that video has come out. It's that quick. And so the people that are doing really, really well, Diary of a CEO. So his podcast, he has a department, he has a team of people that are dedicated to failure. Their whole job is their metric that they're rated on is how many failures did you have? Because their job is to innovate faster than anybody else. And they know that the only way to measure that is going to be they're going to mess up.
Yeah.
So they're trying stuff like they'll bring in a carbon dioxide meter and put it in the room. And to see as that goes up, is the quality of our questions going down? They will research the guests and be like, okay, we've got their favorite music. We're going to play that before they come in, or figure out what their favorite drinks are, or all kinds of they're making these constant changes because they know that if they go online and look for, hey, what is working? Too late. They've already messed up. They need to be moving faster than that. And as AI innovates at such a fast clip, there's really no way to stay on top of it. Like, to surf this wave, it's too late if you saw the surfer go by and now you're trying to catch it. Like, the wave is already passed. You have to be paddling and paddling hard in hopes that the wave is going to be coming up behind you. And eventually it will. But it might take a little while, and you might get exhausted in that process. And what a terrible analogy for a medical business-based show than surfing.
Yeah. It's apt. Definitely that's actually, as you were saying that, the thing that just immediately popped in my head. It's one of the hardest concepts in medicine. Even though you typically associate innovation with medicine and healthcare, the stuff usually takes forever. And that's during what the hell was it when Doge was started out in 2025, and they're looking at the national what the hell is it, NHI, they're cutting studies and this and that, and people are like, they've been studying it for 5 years. Like, that's literally how long it takes some of our stuff. So this aspect of where can I innovate really quick? The healthcare organizations where they're not doing long ass 5 to 10 year studies where they can say, all right, we've always practiced on what's tried and true. But now society itself is shifting. That's kind of like we just described it. It's like society itself is shifting to how do we get more speed as everything around us is moving a lot faster. And that's when I know if somebody's listening in their healthcare, like, holy crap, like, we don't operate like that. We kind of go one step at a time. Where do you think that concept of speed and innovation, how they can maybe balance that out with that tried and true method? That they just, you're in medical school for that long, and that's what you kind of get slammed with. But now you're saying we got to move a little bit faster. How can they maybe balance that out?
Got to move a lot faster. So, on the I'm going to innovate on my own stuff. Like, we're doing that all the time. There's stuff in here that no other studio has, and the truth is, the people that work with me and work for me probably hate me because I'm breaking stuff all the time. Like, there's new cameras put into this room from last time you were here, and there will be another one coming in soon, and there's all kinds of tech being put into place, and tons of it fails because I'm taking a process that works, and I'm like, you know what? If I'm not innovating really fast, so that's part of it. But I also have to accept that in doing that experimentation myself, the rate of failure that I'm going to have to tolerate is going to be really, really high. The other side of that is, this is obvious, but people don't do it, is go out there and get somebody that knows what the hell they're talking about. And so I'm lucky from a podcaster standpoint, which is my world, right? Because I've got a studio, multiple studios that we have some of the top podcasters in the country coming into on a regular basis. We're hearing from them this is working. Hey, have you tried this? Have you tried sludge.ai? Have you tried all these different little things are constantly coming out of their brain, and they're trying to get feedback from each other. And so there is a little bit of this networking thing, but most people don't have access to top level people. So options, you can hire top level people. They're great if you can get them. That's what you guys do. That's literally what you do. Or find a situation where you can surround yourself in that. I suspect in the business and medical world, that's really, really hard. If you're wanting to start a podcast, this is a decent pitch for why you should go to a studio that has a lot of really good shows, especially if they're willing to let you hang out in the lobby and chat with people that are coming through. Because not all of them, but some of them really, really know what they're talking about, and they're not selfish with the information because the innovation wipes out the new technology. They don't really mind you knowing and the really top guys are not afraid because you're not going to be able to cannibalize them. They're moving too quick.
So for someone that's watching this, and like I think we really definitely painted a picture on some of the positives of starting a podcast, being innovative, having a good team around you, just trying different things, getting into the mindset of committing to this, long term. It's not a 2-week thing. It takes a little bit of time. But you also mentioned a couple of times, like, hey, there's waves, like technology is evolving. If you were to talk to just business owners that they do feel in their heart of hearts, like, I do have a really strong opinion on things. I have an incredible track record. I really want to get my voice out there. What are the consequences of them not doing this?
Oh, I mean, you'll just be completely irrelevant, and that's okay if you're cool.
If that's what you want, bro. Yeah, sure.
That's totally fine. That's totally fine. But that's for what it's worth. That's kind of a role that I've chosen, right? Like, I used to be a performer here in Vegas. I have intentionally chosen not to put myself front and center. There's a lot of benefit that comes with that, because I don't have to. Like, I'm not that worried about my opinions or anything like that. I'm really not. But on the flip side, right? There was a TV show called Heroes, and they asked the question: is it better to have a significant life or a happy one? Because if you want to have a significant life, it's going to come with a lot of pain and trial and tribulation. And so in many ways, I've chosen a simple life. I really like my simple life. And in some ways, I'm really fine being left behind in that. But there's
you're not, Ty.
Well, there's things that I'm not. There, like, when it comes to the technology in this, like, I love this stuff, but that's because this is what I actually care about.
Yeah.
And it's not about me, it's about other people's voices. But if it's about, like, if I was to try and be like, I'm going to be the #1 expert on podcasting and I didn't have my own show, like, that's insane. It kind of reminds, boy, I might piss off some of your audience. Doctors that are insanely bad shape, or like you can see them as not the epitome of health. Like, why would I trust you?
Yeah.
That's true.
Like, it's crazy.
That's not wrong. Yeah, that's not wrong at all.
And so,
so it sounds like it's a little bit of a legacy element. Like, if you're working really hard and changing people's lives and you have an opinion and all this stuff only to stay quiet, it's like, make that make sense.
Yeah, there's two ways to do this. It's like, you either are going to get out there and say what you have to say over and over and over and over again. And, like, don't get tired of saying it, because that's the job. Like, the job is to spread that message. And I have a friend in healthcare, and he said the other day and I just loved it. He goes, I'm a pediatrician by profession, but I'm a healthcare provider by calling. And I was like, what does that mean? And he goes, it means that if I didn't have a job and somebody came to me and they had a problem, I'm going to help them. Like, this is my identity. This is who I am. Right. And so, like, the calling comes way before the profession of it. And so if you have a calling, if you've got something that needs to be said, that needs to get out there, that has a message, and you're choosing not to, I suspect that you're going to be on your deathbed really regretting your life.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a huge, huge mistake. And especially doing it right now, where like this is the time in history where things have gone from mainstream media where you had to have tremendous either influence or power or money to get your voice heard. This is I can't think of a better time, maybe the only time that has existed where anybody has the chance. I'm not saying you're going to win, right? But like you were not even allowed to buy the lottery ticket up until right now. And so there's a lot of people that aren't playing, and I get it. The odds are probably stacked against you.
Well,
but it's worth playing.
I was just saying, man, there are those people. I know certain people would say if you're withholding information, I don't know if you're being selfish, but you're definitely not actually living to that message of I want to try to help as many people as possible. But then to your point, too, it's also a matter of you're at a time now where if you're complaining about the amount of disinformation and misinformation that's out there, but then not doing anything to counterbalance it, then what is the point of complaining? Do something about it and either put yourself on camera and get your voice out there, or I would just say kind of just shut up and accept what's out there that you're not willing to kind of get ahead of.
I think the medical industry has a bigger problem with that than almost any medical and science.
Yeah,
it's because they're very careful, and everybody who is pushing their crazy agendas are not careful at all. They just so when it comes to like equal voices, the real professionals are not sharing their voice. And I think partially they're afraid of being wrong, but if they're willing to accept, hey, I could be wrong, but if I don't say anything.
That's, yeah. I mean, that was actually, I forget who it was. I don't know if it was the American Medical, somebody large just literally just came out this past week, said the number one thing doctors could do to counteract everything that's going on with social media is to get their voices out there, is to actually get on social media and talk and do things like podcasting.
So if there's a business owner, there's a doctor out there and they want to get to know you a little bit better, I think, so you have some books too that you've written about podcasting. What is the best way for people to get in contact with you or get a hand on some of your resources? And maybe they're here, locally in Vegas. They want to take a tour of this amazing studio you built out.
Yeah. So we are Origin Studios in Las Vegas. OriginStudios.com will get you there. And you can reach out to us through the website. You can find us on social media. That all exists there as well. The truth is I'm not a big online presence, I'm also not particularly secretive about anything that I know. And so if somebody reaches out to me by email or by phone or by I'm going to help them. If you're in the area and you want to come in, that'd be really cool because I can help you a lot more. And there's a lot to chat about. And if you're not in the area, we still help people throughout the country. So there's a lot of people that they'll record on their own. And then we'll take the content and help chop that up into smaller pieces or edit it. Or there's a lot that can be done in post. And so for a lot of those people, we help them. And regardless, like if you're just wanting to get started and you got a couple questions, feel free to ask. You can do this with a cell phone by itself. So like there's obviously advantages to doing it in like soundproofed rooms with really great stuff. But there's really no excuse technologically to not get started when everybody's got a camera and a microphone in their pocket. It can be done with nothing. Like you can start with zero.
I love that, man. Thank you so much. This was awesome.
Yeah, this is great, Highs. Really appreciate it.
A lot of really great info, man.
It was fun.
Do you want to do the...